Hey everybody, I'm Jordan with Warpfire Minis, and today we're going to talk about endless spells. Sure, they got lots of cool abilities on their war scrolls, but we got a trick up our sleeve to get a little bit more too, so let's get into it. So first up, the most important thing about your endless spells is at the end of the hero phase, you have to remember to move them. And I see it happen all the time where you're done with your spells and you jump straight into movement and then you forgot. So just remember to move them, and then when we are moving them, here's a couple little things we can do to get the most out of them. So outside of the war scroll abilities of the endless spell itself, the best thing we can do with them is use them to move block. And by that I mean that enemy units, they can't finish a move on top of the base of an endless spell, so we can try and position our own endless spells in their way to stop them from charging, or to stop them from even just moving their total movement that they want to move. So in this example I've got set up here, we have this Gargant. It's their turn. He wants to just come up here, charge Lord Screech, take that objective away from him. But at the end of the hero phase, I have my endless spell. So Jaws, it moves 3d6, so that's a 14. And so I have the option now. I could take this endless spell and I could go over top of him this way and deal a little bit of damage to him. Like the Gatebreaker moves 10, so it would be 4 mortal wounds. But the better play for me to make, and I'll check to see if I have the extra movement, so that would be 5 to get on top of him. 9 would set it back here, and that's perfect. So since I rolled so high, I can move over top of him to still proc my damage, and then land the endless spell right here. And what that's going to do for me is, in the Gargant's turn, he can only move 10. And so his base is so big, like he can move up to here to be 3 inches away for a good charge. But since his base is so big, he's not going to be able to get up on top of it where he really wants to go. So like that would be his best potential space. Now we go to charge the Gargant. A 6. The inches are there, like the movement's there to make it. But since its base is so big, it can't finish the move on top of the endless spell. And so with this spell positioned here, Lord Screech becomes unchargeable. Like the Gargant can't charge. And now he probably failed his battle tactic. I'm keeping control of the objective. And so just absolute best case scenario for us if we can use those endless spells to block out move and charges. Then there's other situations where even if the enemy unit doesn't have a big base, if they still have a large footprint, we can still use the endless spells to deny. So let's say I had the Jaws out here, and I roll my 3d6. I'm just going to move it right over here. And we're going to use the model itself to block out the objective. And so beforehand, these guys could have just auto-ran 11, taken the objective from Screech. But now with our endless spell on the way, they move 11, they're only going to be able to get 2 or 3 bodies on. And so we've held the objective. They're not going to have a chance to charge us. They're too far away anyways. But we're denying them victory points, and in the grand scheme, that's the best thing we can do. Then if we have multiple endless spells in play, like it just gets even better. So in this situation, the Blight Kings are just going to walk up and charge Screech. But since I have both spells, I can fly this guy around here. I can move the boat over here. And now, even if they move up, they're going to move up their 4-inch movement. Even if they hit a big 12-inch charge, since they have to keep unit cohesion, this guy could go all the way here, but these guys can't finish their move on top of this endless spell. And so now with this wall of endless spells, I've stopped them from charging me at all. Which again, like, now I'm controlling that objective, I'm denying points, and we're going to win some games. And last one we can do, we can try and use them if we can't block out the charge altogether. We can use it to make them have to do longer charges. So with these guys, they move 4, and they're going to try and charge me. So I can use these spells just to get completely in their way. So since they have to stay in cohesion, they can't move the 4 at all. They're only going to be able to move up to get in range of these endless spells, so they can't land on top. And so we're going to turn that into an extra like 2-3 inches added into their charge, which is great. So make sure you take advantage of move blocking. It's something a lot of people overlook. Like, they have the Jaws, they roll that 15, they get really excited about the damage they're going to do. But being able to block the movement, a lot of cases, is going to be even better than the damage. Again, deny the victory points. I'm going to keep saying it because it's that important. So move block, move block, move block. And then let's talk about what endless spells you should bring. So we'll get into that. All right, so let's go through some of the endless spells that I like and the ones that you actually see out in play. The first one on the list is going to be Ravenak's Gnashing Jaws. And this spell, it's probably the best one right now because of the GCs, the Glacian Champion rules that are out there. You score bonus points on missions for having a Glacian Champion on objectives, and this spell is just excellent at killing them. So you roll 3d6, and that's how far the spell moves. And then whenever you pass over, you get to pick one unit, or if you land next to it. And on a 2-up, you do mortal wounds equal to the movement you rolled on those 3 dice versus the movement characteristic of that hero. The average on 3d6 is like 10 or 11, and the average movement on a GC is 5 or 6. So on average, you're just killing that Glacian Champion in one swoop. And like we just went over on the table shots, the base is also very big, so we can get a lot of play out of it and a lot of value just on the move blocking that it can provide, in addition to all this extra damage it's doing. And the top meta guys right now, like OBR and Soul Blight, even Gits, a lot of the units in there aren't very fast, so we can proc a lot of damage on those really good armies right now. Alright, my second favorite in the spell right now is the Quicksilver Swords. In this one, you get to roll 12 dice, and on every 5-up, it does a mortal wound to something that you flew over. It's got a little bit shorter range than the Jaws, like you have to cast it wholly within 6, and then it can move 8, so you got like a 14-inch threat range with it. But the best thing about it is the damage that you cause can't be negated in any way. So if you're fighting against Scragrot, and he's got a 4-up ward, like this spell can go over and just one-shot him if you spike on those 5s. So really good damage as long as you're hitting those 5s. And even when you don't, like it's still going to do 1 or 2 damage. And again, we can use that base to try and block off some movement here and there. So Quicksilver Swords, A+. After that, we've got Lauchon. And as a Skaven player, I'm probably a little more fond of it than everybody else. But it's the Lauchon the Soulseeker. He's the boat that lets you teleport. So you cast it next to a wizard, and as long as that wizard's wholly within 3 inches of him, you can move that boat 18 inches, and that wizard goes with it. And so this is really big. Any kind of movement shenanigans you can do are always great, just to help get in better positions. And with Lauchon, after you're done doing that teleport, you can still move in the movement phase, which is extremely rare. And so you're going to see this especially on Thankwall, like he's the #1 place where you'll see it is in Skaven. But there's some other good picks you can do with it, like Draika in Sylvaneth. Her base is small enough to fit. I've seen people do a Knight Draconis if he's got an Arcane Tome. Like that turns him into a wizard, and so now he can use this ability too. And also, the base again is a pretty good size, and the 18-inch movement is one of the fastest ones for an endless spell. So we can use that movement to get it into the good position to block people off the objectives or keep us from getting charged. And even then on top of that, if you just leave the endless spell next to your wizard, it goes into your opponent's turn. Like, let's say they choose they're going to kill that guy as the battle tactic. At the end of their hero phase, we can just, boom, teleport that wizard away. So just lots of opportunities, lots of cool plays you can do. Lauchon for Skaven, like I'm putting it in every list with Thankwall. Then while we're talking about teleports, we'll go into the Soulscream Bridge. In this one, you take one big bridge piece and set it up near the caster. Another big bridge piece wherever you want to teleport to. And the good thing about this one is it doesn't have to teleport a wizard. You can teleport any unit in the game as long as it's wholly within 6 inches. So, boom, you teleport over. You do have to stay 9 inches away, which is kind of the drawback. Hitting 9-inch charges is tough, but you'll still see this in lists like for Skaven, if they're running 6 or 9 Storm Fiends, they'll bring the bridge to help just teleport this one big unit across the board since they're a little bit slow. And since the majority of the damage they do is from shooting, they're still going to be able to get outside of 9 and still be able to be very effective. And the other big one we're seeing it right now is with KO. They can teleport a whole boat that's full of people. And so they can fly high one boat, then Soulscream Bridge another boat. So it's like they're getting 2 fly highs and drop down next to something and just blow it to pieces with all their shooting. Soulscream Bridge, pretty good right now. Then some other utility endless spells you'll see out there. You'll see stuff like Cogs in the spell portal. And so Cogs, you cast it down near wizards, and then you get to reroll all your casts. You'll see it in like magic-heavy armies like Lumineth, Tzeentch. If they're bringing Nagash, they usually bring that so that he doesn't miscast and lose his whole turn. So Cogs pretty good. Rerolling your cast, always good to do. If it's still out there and it goes to your opponent's next turn, like in the start of the hero phase, try and unbind that. If you unbind it, they can't bring it back that same turn, and now they don't get to reroll their casts. So definitely try to do that. Then for the spell portal, it's just a way to extend the range on spells. And the big users of that, you'll see Teclis, with Searing White Light as the big one. And so you cast the portal down next to Teclis. The portal goes out, I think it's an 18-inch range. And then instead of it being based around Teclis' base for the range of the spell, you're now measuring the range from that new spell portal you put out there 18 inches away. And what that does is now Searing White Light, in most cases, like it's going to hit most of your army for D3 or D6 damage, which is kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. Same idea, when it goes to your turn, don't unbind the spell portal yet. They're not going to be able to cast spells through it during your turn. So wait until it goes to their next hero phase. And at the start of that hero phase, boom, get rid of it. And then they can't use it that turn, can't recast it again. So make sure you try and do that. After that, we got the Purple Sun. And for a hot second, this one was like the meta pick. Purple Sun was in every list. You used to be able to just auto-kill anything in the game, but it's starting to take a little bit of a backseat now. It gives out a 6-inch range of -1 to the save rolls. So anything you're hitting in there, it's like you're getting an extra point of rend, which is always good. And then after you move it, everything within an inch, you still get to roll a dice, and on a 1, if it's 9 wounds or less, it's just dead. And that can be really cool into stuff like Andrasta with the 4-up ward, Scragrot, stuff like that, where you can just auto-kill them. But if it's a bigger model over 9 wounds, then it just says D6 plus 6 mortal wounds, which is also, that's a lot of damage. But we're just not seeing it a lot anymore. Like the couple users where I think it still sees some play is KO. They can use the spell on the bottle just to drop it outside of range of themselves and then shoot something to pieces. And then armies like Nighthaunt, they're a really good user of it. It hits everything within that 6-inch bubble, so it also hits yourself if you get in range. But Nighthaunt, since their save can't be modified, they just ignore it. So they can cast it and then pile their whole army right on top of it without any real negatives. So you'll see it every once in a while. It's not super popular anymore, but you will see it every blue moon. Then let's go through some honorable mentions for endless spells. There's a lot of them, and a lot of them still have like niche circumstances where they're pretty good. So you have like things like Geminids can be really good in certain matchups. Horrorghast, if you can try and trigger a bunch of bravery things, you'll see that every once in a while. Then even ones like the Gravetide, that one, just again, excellent for move blocking. That base on that thing is huge. And then sometimes instead of that one, you'll see the Burning Head. It's just a little D3 area of effect, mortal wounds, and then it goes away. So all of them have a little bit of play, but that first list I gave you, those are the ones you're going to see more often than not. Then let's say you're in a situation where you don't have any in the spells, and you're going up against a bunch of them, like things you can do to try and help yourself. If you can unbind it at the start of their hero phase, then that means they can't recast it that same phase. So try and do that where you can, and just be very, very careful on picking your battle tactic. So with that move blocking stuff that they can do, you just don't want to put yourself in a situation where you have to walk onto this objective, then boom, they just go move the jaws right there on that corner where you could touch, and now you failed. So just be very mindful of that, and make sure you try and dispel that in the spell before you choose your battle tactic. We can try and get rid of it, see what happens, and then we can choose the best battle tactic after that. It's very important, like we just don't want to fail battle tactics, period. Then the only other thing to look out for is just those damage spells. So I've been in situations where someone chose Cunning Maneuver. They're going to take their GC and they're going to go hop it onto an objective. But I've got the jaws out, and the jaws are in range, and I roll a 12 on those jaws, and it zoops over and it kills that GC, and now they fail their battle tactic. So just really watch out for them. Like, you can play around it, try and dispel them, but it's just something you do have to be mindful of. So that's it on endless spells. Just make sure you move them, number one. Like, you have to move your endless spells for them to be effective. Make sure if you're trying to unbind them at the start of your enemy's hero phase, and use them for move blocking too. Oftentimes you can proc that damage and also block the move, so try and do that. Then if you need any models, check us out at warpfireminis.com, and thanks for watching.